Okay, students, good morning. Today we're reviewing for the first week, 2 weeks, reviewing middle school math. So all this should be reviewed. You've been doing it for years. Just quick refresher, getting your mind caught up. If you haven't been watching any of my videos yet for a review of middle school math, you should watch those to get caught up as well. I'm just going to go through a few examples on the worksheet and give you some reminders. You should remember negative times a negative is a positive, just as a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So the simple rule, remember, if they're the same signs, the answer is positive when you multiply or divide. If they are opposite signs, they are negative when you multiply or divide. This whole sheet notices multiplying, which can include yeah, it's all straight multiply. Okay, backside I think is divide then. Okay, so you have that. Now next, fractions. I do not want you multiplying straight across and then reducing it. Again, even though we have calculators, you can put the calculator, your goal is to be able to do everything by hand, and even more ideally, those who are brighter, in your head. But you're going to show the work here. Okay, so anytime you have a whole number, you put it over 1, just so you know. Okay, that's a quick reminder. But let's look at example 6. First thing I want to do is identify the sign of the final answer. I have a negative times a negative is a positive, so I don't blow my sign. Do that first. Next, I look to see if I can either vertically cancel up and down or cross cancel, which is diagonally. Well, yes, the 5 goes into the 5 once. These become 1s, and the GCF of 4 and 6, remember GCF, greatest common factor. GCF of 4 and 6 is 2, so I divide each by 2. I get 2 there, and I get 3 there. Now I go ahead and multiply across. I get 2 times 1 is 2, and 1 times 3 is 3. So the answer is 2/3. This is how I want to see it done. You're going to, as like I said, this is elementary math right here. Okay. When you get to later in algebra and then into geometry, into algebra 2, especially algebra 2 and on up, you're going to do a lot of this cross-canceling stuff with factors, with variables in them and all this kind of stuff. So you don't just multiply across, we look to cross-cancel. Get that in your mind. Okay. You should remember on decimals that I just multiply the number as it is. Okay, so I can multiply 36 times 57, get that answer. And then I count how many numbers are to the right of the decimal. So 3 in that one, 1 in that one is a total of 4. So I move it 4 places to the left. So after I get my final answer, let's just say it was 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not. Now I'd move it, put the decimal was originally there, move it 4 places, 1, 2, 3, 4 places to the left. And that would be my answer. Okay. Another thing to remember is that you don't have to multiply always right in a row. What order they give it to you, multiplication is commutative, which means 1 times 2 is 2 times 1, so the order doesn't matter. All being multiplied together. So you might go ahead and do 4. So first I'm going to do my signs. Negative times negative times negative is a negative. If there's an odd number of negatives, the answer is negative. If there's an even number of negatives, the answer is positive. Put down the sign first. Now I can ignore the signs and just multiply the numbers. You might say, okay, 4 times 5 is 20. Okay, so now I've done those two. And 3 times 1 is 3. 20 times 3 is 60. Okay, that would be simpler than just multiplying across, because I'd have my sign, I already done my sign negative. I got 15 there times 4. A lot of you can't do 15 times 4 in your head, but you can easily do 20 times 3. So you want to be smart when you multiply your numbers together. Find patterns that can give you a nice number then to multiply by. Okay, so that same idea would be on 21. Remember, I have fractions here. That 16 is going to cancel the 4. I'm going to first get my sign. Negative is negative is negative is a negative. And deal with my numbers. I have cross canceling there, and I have cross canceling there. Okay, so I'm not going to do 5/16 times -2. That's a waste of time. You deal with any cross canceling first to reduce the numbers. I'm not going to finish it off. You finish that off. Okay. Down here, we need to remember distributive property. Okay, learned this in 6th or 7th grade. So you got 18m. Draw the next arrow. Minus 6m. Draw that arrow. Plus 3m. And plus 6m. Now notice they're all m's, so I can combine like terms. These are all to the first power. Okay, and you know that. If there's no power there, it's the first power on a variable. Okay, even on a number here. All numbers, if there's no, it's all ones there as well, just so you know. Okay, so like terms keeps the same term itself, m, and now I just add or subtract my, what are these called? What's the number in front of a variable called? You should know this already from 7th and 8th grade, easily. Coefficient. So in my class, I expect you to know your vocabulary, and I'm going to be quizzing you on it for extra credit, etc. in class, and or on the quiz or test. If a lot of people are struggling with memorizing it, it's going on the test or quiz. So, and you also are not getting the extra credit if you're not working on memorizing it. And those who are and already have it memorized, because you put in your long-term memory like good students do, then you're going to be getting extra credit in class because you worked harder than others. Okay, so now again, there's multiple ways. I can do 18 minus 6 plus 3 plus 6. I could do that right in order, but I don't have to. I could sit there and go ahead and look at this. If I'm smart, I'm going to say a -6 and a +6 is 0. That's the smartest way to do it right there. Now I just have 18 plus 3 is 21m. So you always want to look at the entire problem, see if I combine things or cancel things out like this, okay, to make your life easier. All right, backside now. Dividing. So here we're dividing. The front side is multiplying. This side is dividing. Okay, we're going to get down to fractions. You should be able to divide integers the same as multiplying integers. Okay, same rules for signs on it at the front side. So here this says 6 -2/3 divided by 6. You should remember you put it 6 over 1. Now you should have been taught inside and out from elementary school on. You've been doing this for at least 5 years, 4 or 5 years. That division means multiplication by the reciprocal. So I want to hear you say flip it. I want to hear the right vocabulary, reciprocal. Okay, that means to switch the numerator and denominator. You should already know this. It's all review. Next, we do not multiply straight across. Well, first we're going to get our final answer sign. What's a negative times a positive? Negative. Now I don't have to worry about the signs any longer. Now I'm just dealing with the numbers. Is there any cross canceling? Does 3 and 1 cancel? No. How about 2 and 6? Oops. Yes. So 2 goes in 2 once, 2 goes in 6 3 times. Now I multiply across. 1 times 1 is 1, and 3 times 3 is 9. And there's my answer. Box in your answer or circle the answer so I can easily find it. You have to show me work, just like I'm showing here. This is why you watch the videos, so you see the exact work I expect to see on your sheet. If you think you're going to just put in a calculator and write down an answer, you get a 0 on your homework. 0. I know the calculator can do it. That doesn't make you any smarter. We're trying to get your brain smarter. Again, it should already know this because it's reviewed from elementary school and you've done it every year. Okay, from probably 5th grade on. All right. If I have one that looks like this, okay, this is the bigger division sign. So I have 6 over 1. If you need to start and first write it by divided by -2/9, If you want to first write it like that and then convert it to the multiplication by the reciprocal, you can do that. That helps. So then I have 6 over 1 times the reciprocal, negative 9 halves. Now notice I left the negative in the numerator. It doesn't matter because a positive times a negative is a negative. Okay, it's easier, I believe, to leave it in the numerator so you do not forget about it. Oftentimes you will see students who put it in the denominator and they will forget about it because they're just focused on the numerator. Okay, and then they miss the answer by their sign. So now we look here. Do we have any cross canceling? Yes, we do. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 6 3 times. And so now and final answer, a sign was positive times a negative is a negative. And now I have 3 times 9 is 27. So negative 27. Okay. Last example down here. So already gone over this. Last example, one we see like in a fraction form. We'll go ahead and do this one, 21. So first off, before you can ask me any questions, just so you know in class, you have to have all these examples written down from the video. So if you come up and ask me a question on the worksheet, I say, let me see all the examples written down from the video first. After you have all those examples written down, then I'll work with you. Because you've watched the video, you've listened to it, you've taken notes, you've written down all the steps that I have on the video, which is going to cover basically every type of problem, or just about every type of problem. And so if I find you ask me a question, like say you ask me a question on 16, well, I'm going to say, I'm going to look at 21 because 21 is the same thing as 16. So if you don't have 21 written down, I'm going to say, I'm not going to help you until you got 21 written down. It's on the video. Okay, you better have everything written down because then I can just show you from the example in 21. Say, what don't you understand about example in 21? Because the same steps. That would cover for 16 through 21 here. Everyone's the same one. Okay, so what we do here, there's 2 ways of doing it. I'll show you both ways. You can choose whichever way you like. First one is to just split this into 2 fractions. Okay, so it says, is it K? I can't even read that if it's K. We'll say K. 8K over negative 4. Okay, so that's that piece, that one right there. Okay, 8K over negative 4. Now I have a negative is a positive. So that takes care of that. And now I have 12H over positive 4. Because negative divided by negative is positive. We have that there. Now I simplify each of these 2 individual fractions. Okay, so 8K divided by 4, negative 4 is negative 2K. And 12H divided by 4 is 3H. And there's my final answer right there. I will tell you sometimes, like if you were to read off an answer key, they'll, if there's a positive and a negative like that in the answer, they'll put the positive one first. So they might rearrange it and say 3H minus 2K. You need to know those are the exact same thing because the negative 2 is still with the negative 2 right there. The signs don't change. Okay, the exact same coefficient. Positive 3 coefficient there, positive 3 coefficient there. So those are exactly the same. Negative 2K plus 3H is the same as 3H minus 2K. So that's one way of doing it. Okay, that's usually a favorite way, but there is another way. Is I factor out in the numerator the GCF. Well, K and H don't have anything in common, so there's no variable to factor out. But between 8 and 12, there is a GCF of 4. I take out a 4 there, I'm left with 2K minus 3H. And it's over negative 4. Now, so that's factoring out, or it's called factoring out. You've factored out from elementary school on. You've done it with just numbers. Factor out. Okay, final answer, we see positive divided by negative is negative. Okay, so I've taken care of the signs. 4 divided by 4 cancels out right there. And now I'm left with this 2K minus 3H. You have to leave those parentheses there until I distribute through. Now I distribute through that negative 1, which means switch the signs on the inside. And I get negative 2K plus 3H. The exact same answer we had there. And of course, it can be written as 3H minus 2K. So those are the two ways that you can do problems 16 through 21. Hopefully in middle school, your teacher showed you both ways. I know the common ways to separate out in fractions, and that's fine. And if you haven't seen this other way of factoring out the GCF and do that, get used to that, because you get higher math, you're going to do that all the time, factoring out GCFs. That's why you have to know your times tables, your division, so you can easily find GCFs and divide numbers out. I'm dividing by 4. Whatever I take out, that's what I'm dividing by. So right at 8K minus 12H, I took out the 4. That means I divided each of these terms by 4 by taking that 4 out. 8 divided by 4 is 2K. Negative 12H divided by 4 is negative 3H. That's how I got that right there. Okay, factoring out. When you factor out, you're dividing that whatever you take out, you're dividing by each of the terms. Okay, math vocabulary. I know all your middle school teachers have taught you these vocabulary words, but several of you have not chosen to remember them. So terms are separated by plus and minus signs. Okay, so in this case, the numerator has 2 terms and the denominator has 1 term. Okay, because I got a plus or a minus sign in the numerator, separating out the terms. There's only 1 number in the denominator, so 1 term. So again, vocabulary, start using. When you speak to me, I want to hear you using math vocabulary. If you don't, I'm going to say, what's that called? Okay, and if you can answer it, then I'm going to open it up the class for an extra credit point, perhaps. Okay, so everybody listening to what everybody else is saying, because you don't know if I'm going to quickly say, okay, who can tell me the definition of that word? So if you're not paying attention, you're saying definition of what word? Because you aren't paying attention when somebody else is talking and responding out loud in class. Those who are listening will have heard it and they get the first opportunity. If none of them can answer it, then I'll go ahead and repeat it for everybody else for the extra credit. So you better listen to everything everybody is saying. And you're looking for errors. Your job is to find an error in anything they say. Because then I'm going to look to point out the error and say, who can tell me what the error is? Boom. First person that tells me, raise their hand. I call on you. Don't say it out loud. You got to wait to be called on. Raise your hand. Then you'll get an opportunity to get extra credit for knowing your vocabulary. Okay, that covers it for both sides of this sheet. It's almost 18 minutes.